Hi, thank you so much for joining in. So, the German word HEIL, H-E-I-L, in some ways it's one of the central components of Bruno Groning's teaching. But what does it mean? He spoke about divine energy and he called it HEILstrom. Strom is sort of easy to translate: current, wave, stream, river. The second part of that first part, HEIL, H-E-I-L, it has many, many meanings. And here are a few of them: safe, whole, intact, unharmed, unscathed, undamaged, unhurt, uninjured, fixed, safely, salvation, medicinal, divine. So, whatever this energy is, it's good. It's the energy of healing, of salvation, of wholeness, of completeness, of being uninjured, unscathed. But that's not the only place Bruno Groening used this interesting German word, Heil. He said, and I'm going to say it in German so for the German people, they can track it and they can also laugh at my German. He said, "Das Heil erfahren, das ist Wahrheit." Das Heil, I'm not even going to try and say it without the words there, okay? I was just looking at the words. So it's often translated as to experience salvation. That is truth. But actually, it says to experience Heil. There's that word again, Heil. That is truth. So whatever that is, whatever Heil is, to experience that, according to Bruno Groening, that's the truth. That is truth itself, the experience of that. So what on earth is that? Well, I can only share my very limited experience and it's more, I'll pose some questions for all of us to ponder on. And so whatever it is, if we experience it, we are in touch with the truth itself, with truth itself. Capital T, truth. So that's very important. That in and of itself lets us know, whatever it is really freaking important, like possibly the most important thing. And actually, before we talk more about Heil, let's back up a moment. Bruno said to experience Heil. He didn't say to know, to understand, to be able to give big speeches about, to study exhaustively. Because in the West, that's been our mode of seeking the truth, is science and philosophy. And philosophy has tended to be an intellectual endeavor. I would argue that in the East, matters of religion and spirituality are more experiential. That's been the orientation, is to have a direct experience, a knowing that includes the mind, but is really beyond the mind. Really just completely beyond the mind. So that's very important. Bruno Groening isn't here to give us one more belief system. He's here to point us to an experience. And more than an experience, an ongoing experience. I want to say the living truth, and living truth itself, as in moment by moment. We might say revelation, knowing. We have a word in English, grokking, like getting in our bones, this knowing of what truth is, and then living it, embodying it, not just like, writing books about it or doing YouTube videos, but really experiencing it and living it. So, okay, now, what on earth is HEIL? Well, what I'm reminded of is something that Christ said and something that Bruno said. It was written that Christ said, and we don't know exactly what his exact words were, but it's written that he said, well, actually it's translated from written to, it gets a little complicated with Christ because it's multiple translations, but it's written that he said, you shall know the truth and the truth shall set you free. So many people have interpreted that as like, I have to have the right idea, and in the future, that will set me free. That never really worked for me. It's like if I can't experience and know it now, it's not of a lot of importance. And that's turned the, Christ called us to a path, to a way of life. And that approach has turned Christ's calling into like an intellectual quest, as opposed to a quest to live and embody and experience and know God in our hearts. And of course, those who are pursuing it intellectually, ultimately, I believe that's what they're seeking, what we're all seeking, really. And yet I believe it's a very distorted approach to having a direct experience of God and being set free. And also contained within that belief system is the idea that, it's going to happen in the future. And generally, meaning once this body has died, then I can be free. And it's very unsatisfying to me. Very unsatisfying. And Bruno Groening said just the opposite. He said it's only in a body that when we can live, and I'm paraphrasing here, but then we can live spiritual truth and live without attachment and not lose our peace for any reason. Only then are we redeemed. Again, here's that idea of living the truth. So, das Heil erfahren, das ist Wahrheit. To experience HEIL, that is truth. So to point us, I don't claim to, I don't live in truth moment by moment. So it's like, in a sense, who am I to even be talking about this? In a sense, what we're talking about is, like the deepest subject there is. And yet, Bruno Groening did give us some other hints. He said the only necessary thing is to experience self-recognition or self-knowledge. And Bruno Groening also said that the human being is and remains divine. That the human being can become a servant of evil, yet in their core, by taking an evil, yet in their core, they remain divine. So let's look at these different meanings of HEIL again. Safe, whole, intact, unharmed, unscathed, undamaged, unhurt, uninjured, untouched. Untouched. I think we're on to something there. And safe. So what if there's a part of us? What if there's a part of us that's always safe and sound, that's untouched by evil? In fact, Bruno Groening says that's true, that when we take on evil or take on an evil thought, that the soul closes up because it remains pure. Safely, salvation, healing. These are a few of the meanings of this word, HEIL. It's a profound word. So what if, Bruno Groening also once said that it'd be possible to be in the middle of the ocean on a boat that's taking on water and to calmly bail the water out without any fear. That if we knew, once again paraphrasing, that if we knew that God created us and that we knew what our relationship is to God. So I think maybe that's a beautiful expression of what HEIL is. It's this this sense of safety through knowing our connection to God. And maybe ultimately, the Eastern mystics talk about that behind it all, we're free all the time. It's just all these things that obscure it and cover it up. And Bruno Groening's teachings are very similar. As I said, the human being is and remains divine. And yet, it can become a servant of evil. That we can take on evil into this body, that evil in a sense can be associated with this pure divine soul, but it can't taint it. I'm going to read a quote of Bruno's on that very topic. And this is from Powers of the Spirit, page 220. A good will opens the mirror of the soul and the power can flow. But it will not let in even the tiniest bad feeling because it will shut itself up as quick as lightning. So the soul is where the divine spark is located in human beings, to which no evil can gain access. So if we knew that, and lived that, and lived in connection to that. And part of that is freeing ourselves from the evil that obscures that. Maybe that would be an experience of HEIL. If we could be in a boat in the middle of the ocean taking on water, and if we had HEIL, an experience of HEIL, then we could calmly bail out the water because we would know something, know with a capital K, but in our heart and in our guts, in the depths of our being, we'd be living in a reality in which that wasn't a problem. All I can do is share what Bruno has said about this and what Christ has said, and say, yeah, I have on this path, I experience more and more peace and moments where I'm able to stay in peace in situations where I used to not be able to. Could I stay at peace in the middle of an ocean while taking on water? Boats taking on water? Probably not. But there would be all sorts of probably physiological responses of fear. But what I can say is what's starting to happen is it's possible to be at peace even while fear is there. And that creates the space. Well, as John F. Kennedy said, the only thing to fear is fear itself. So I make no claims to have mastered what our friend Bruno is talking about, just beginning to experience it. So I hope this is helpful. And the last thing I guess the last piece with this is whatever this thing HEIL is, the experience of it. I think we all have tasted it. I hope we all have. I think we've all had those moments of freedom, of peace, of feeling whole, of feeling utterly safe, utterly, all of us have been through so much because, some of the meanings of HEIL is unscathed, uninjured, unharmed. And all of us have been through so much harm. I mean, even the person who's had the best circumstances in life, has had some hard knocks. And yet we've all had those moments of where we feel unharmed, unscathed. Even those of us who have suffered immensely. And maybe that's the truth. That despite all the, you know, all the intense pain and suffering that we've experienced in this life, some part of us is unscathed. Or another way to say it is maybe there's a power or force that holds us and can lift us above all of that. So that even with all that pain, all that we've been through, we can experience being unscathed, uninjured, unharmed, whole, intact, safe and sound. Thank you so much. Take care. Much love.